Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Becca with House of Lenormand. Today is Friday, July 19th. And I went ahead and opened up this reading this morning to ask, what we should talk about. And I drew this first line here, which is the tower, the bear, the tree, the child, and the sun, this line right here. I went ahead and asked for it to give me a little bit more clarification, and I pulled this line up here, which is the man, the fox, the clover, the ring, and the storks. Hold on, I'm going to get my phone because I don't want to make this video like 20 hours long. So I asked who this man was, and I got the rider, the coffin, and the ship. So because these two cards here are speaking about movement, the rider is someone that is visiting. It is a visitor, news, a delivery, someone, or a message being brought. The coffin talks about ending something, an ending, and the ship is also another movement card. It's about going away. I took this to mean that, the person in a position of authority, with this line here, a person in a position of authority whose growth is small, but he's looking to perhaps expand it or make it larger or be recognized in some sort of way. I figured that this was Donald Trump here with this top row, with a man that is fraudulent, that saw an opportunity to recommit with the ring and the storks, to recommit to his immigration policies. And then down here we have the center back, the people that we don't want people coming in, go away. So I wanted to sit down and read on this. I mean, this is what came up, so I was like, let's go with it. I'm seeing here in this first row, his growth is small. He doesn't have as much power as he believes he does with the bear and the child. This could also be referring to a childish authority, or an authority that is childlike, meaning they lack knowledge, they lack the education, the experience. They're very childlike in their approach, but his growth is small. There's also something going on here with the recognition, even though the sun is not close to the bear, there's two cards in between. There's some sort of recognition, and I'm glad that the media is finally bringing it up. There's some recognition of extreme authority. And I'm glad that the media is starting to call it what it is. I pulled out my old college textbook here. This thing is old. This thing is really, really old. And they were talking about fascism. So I pulled out my old college book and I started reading up on fascism. And I'm like, that's exactly what it is. It's they're anti-immigration. They're all about let me see. Yeah, it assumes that the top leader is the embodiment of the national will, and that individuals and groups must obey the will of the leader. This ideology also usually distinguishes between a superior racial or ethnic group that forms the nation and other inferior groups that are reviled and persecuted, which is exactly what we're seeing. And I'm glad that they finally stopped tiptoeing around the issue, and recognizing this man for his fascist proclivities. That's who he is. So here we're seeing that he's a con man with the man and the fox who saw an opportunity to renew his immigration policies, have sent her back. So building off of that, because that's what opened up the reading when I asked what to read on, I'm going to ask, because all we've seen from the GOP is just a very, very poor attempt to spin this into socialism versus freedom. You know, I mean, I understand people have freedom of speech, but racism has no place in our society. And we all know that Mango Mussolini, his only trick is to sow discord and racial division in this country, you know. So despite what the sycophants, the Lindsey Grahams and the Mitch McConnells and everybody else goes on the media and says, if there's any brain between those ears, if there's any gray matter between those ears, I am fairly certain that they recognize the hammer that's about to come down on all of them come 2020. And to be quite honest with you, that whole send her back chant I'm not surprised. I am not surprised. You know, this is a person that had neo-Nazis marching on the streets of Charlottesville, you know, with a mild slap on the wrist, like, if we can even call it that, from the GOP. And, you know, I'm actually surprised at this point that he hasn't started dropping the N-word. You know, like, we're at that point that I'm actually surprised that hasn't happened yet. I did watch the video. I finally watched it yesterday of what was taking place at that rally. And, you know, the crowd, it's whatever, it's who they are. It's the South. It's disgusting. It should be rejected at every instance. But what I found the most disturbing was, if you're watching that video where he's standing at the podium, it will be your right. When you're looking at the TV, it's your right and his left, okay? If you look a little bit right behind his shoulder to the right, there's a little girl, a little blonde girl, I would say about no older than 12 years old. She's wearing a shirt, it's got like the open shoulder. I think they called that, like, what is it? Cold shoulder t-shirts. And she's wearing a Make America Great Again hat. And, you know, she's standing there chewing her gum, kind of minding her own business. But when the crowd starts chanting, "Send her back," watch what that little girl does. She is sitting there and you can see her looking around, and then she starts chanting it as well. You know, she's not screaming it. You know, you can just see her lips moving, "Send her back, send her back, send her back," you know. And it's like, this is what you're teaching your children. These are the seeds that you're planting. This is what you're teaching your children. And the entire media is so focused on the racist rants of this moron who has the intelligence of a gnat. And I am surprised that the media hasn't focused in on what that little girl did and how the example that is being set to our children. Okay, I'm going to digress. I'm sorry about that. But I want to read on, okay, this last election, the GOP got hammered, like hammered. So I don't know what tricks they think they have up their sleeves. I don't think of they're you know, messing with the voting machines. You know, they're tricks, gerrymandering, scaring people right before an election, voter ID laws, any tool that they can use to suppress the vote. They're in danger in 2020. I mean, this has gotten to a point where, you know, even a federal judge the other day announced that she's leaving the Republican Party because it's Trumpism now. It is full blown in the early stages of, I mean, if we're not there, I'm not a political science major by any means, but, you know, it's fascism. Just call it what it is, you know, fascism. And I kind of wanted to know, building off of that first reading, I want to know what the GOP is saying behind closed doors about his latest rants, you know, his full-blown xenophobic, racist rants. And we're going to build from there. I got a couple of questions I want to ask. So let's see if we can go through this together. Okay, what is the GOP saying about Donald Trump behind closed doors about his latest racist rants? What is the GOP saying about Donald Trump behind closed doors in his latest racist rants? What is the GOP saying? What is the GOP saying about Donald Trump and his latest racist rants? Go ahead and make this a double line of 5. See what we get. Okay. Let's see here. You have the dog, the whip, the coffin, the birds. There's our communication card. That's exactly what we wanted to know, what they're saying, what they're talking about. And the bouquet. We have the anchor below the dog. We have the key below the whip. We have, oh, there we go, the crossroads below the anchor. We have the ring below the birds, and we have the house below the garden. So we asked, what are they saying about him behind closed doors about his latest racist rant? We got the birds. That's what they're saying. So from here over, this is your closed door, what's in private. So it's this back here, everything back here, from here over. Okay, so what we're looking at is inciting racism, sowing discord, abusing, using language that is critical, abusive, aggressive, that could do harm to a person, and perhaps, you know, the violence here could end here. Okay, and we've already seen that in Charlottesville, where that young girl lost her life by a neo-Nazi. There's a stubbornness right here with the dog and the anchor. There's a stubbornness, a persistence, immobility. Like they are stuck. They are stuck they have chained themselves to this abusive behavior, this critical behavior, this racist behavior, the constant attacks. And they know the key right here. They know that this next election with the crossroads, it's about making a choice, okay? A choice between this and that. Which way are you going to go? They know that this next election is done. They're done. Kaput. Dead. Okay? There is conversations here that have to do with agreements and partnerships. And they may be talking about trying to win back the House. I don't see how that's going to happen. I honestly don't, because if this continues, it actually empowers the House, okay? The current House that we have now. The partnerships are going to be key. What he is saying, his abusive language, and the abusive language that is catered to the circle, the ring that is abusive, is going to be their end. Also, the ring knights the whip. Okay, that is a partnership or an agreement that is abusive. It's also chronic, and both of these cards talk about repetition. So it's going to keep going. It's only going to keep going. And as we move down the line, if they don't stop this, it's only going to get worse with the bouquet here. Also, because this land's here and this knight's over here, they could also be talking about his partnership to the sex ring. And when that gets revealed here, and that's also has the potential to sink them in the election. If we knight, sorry, I'm trying to put these in order. If we knight the ring here to the whip, that's a sex ring, okay? And also if we knight it this way, the sex ring that's being covered up, if this is talking about the sex ring that is covered up and his involvement in it, that's going to continue to be talked about, and it's going to come out. The evidence, and it looks like there's multiple evidences of that. No matter how hard they try to bury it, the ring gets exposed here and here. But there's a stubbornness to move. It's like they've formed this. The ring lands far from the dog. It doesn't even knight to the dog, but the dog is flanked on the lower row by the anchor. So that's like, you're stuck. You're not moving. You're like, you're stuck with this nightmare until you face the elections and you lose everything. You're going to lose the House. You're going to lose the Senate. You're going to lose the office, the White House. You're done. You're done. And this here, the House, knights to the coffin. They know, they have knowledge that they're going to lose everything. The House ends. The White House ends, okay? But they're going to stay, they're stuck. They're stuck. They're talking about the sex rings. They're talking about his abusive language and how they're going to lose elections across the board. Like, you know, I'm not seeing, excuse me, let me get a drink of water. I'm not seeing the garden, so I can't say that they're worried about the party itself. But based off of this, I feel comfortable saying that, yeah, they see the end is near come the elections. I'm not seeing the scythe, so I can't talk about impeachments. What I am seeing is the chitter chatter that's going on in the House, and it's in their favor. They recognize that the House is right, that it's in their favor because he's doing all of this. I don't see the mice, so I can't say that they're worried, but I would be. I would be if I were them, because I mean, they realize that this is going to end, and it's going to end very painfully and very, very badly for them. They also recognize the speech, and they also recognize quite literally the birds. That could be Twitter. what he's freaking sitting there on the internet doing. And when we knight the crossroads here to the bouquet, that's talking about, this could be talking about that the house is on the right side. They're over here stuck. But when you look at the crossroads with the bouquet, if the crossroads is talking about the election, this could be that they're happy with the partisanship and they may be looking to use that to their benefit. Okay. Because remember, the crossroads splits, you know? So it's divided. There's a persistent divide. Not only, I'm not seeing the tower, so I can't say the government, but there's a persistent divide with the members here, the partnerships that are in the administration, in the House, and they're facing an end in the election and they're aware of it. But I'm also seeing that they're happy with the division. Even though they're saying all this behind closed doors, that, dude, this is bad. We're going to freaking have our butts handed to us. We're going to lose everything. It's almost like, I'm not seeing the clover, so I'm erring on the side of caution, but it's almost like they're hedging their bets on the partisanship to keep that circle happy. But once the hearings or whatever's being talked about in the House, they know right here that the House is going to use all this against them. You know, they're still going to stand and not move at all. They're still going to be firm in what they're doing. But behind closed doors, from here to here, this is everything that they're saying. And they know that they are absolutely screwed. There's also a divide. There's starting to be like a crack on who's loyal and who's not. With the crossroads knighting the dog, there's a split in private between who is going to stand and who is going to go a different route. But they do recognize that this abuse, this commitment, this commitment to abuse and vulgarity, this is using speech to attack. It's not just criticism, like constructive criticism. It's painful criticism. The whip punishes, you know? So they recognize that, but they're looking at the end. They are looking at the end of everything, and there's a split in the party as well. We may not see it in the public eye, but it's behind closed doors from here this way. I'm also seeing, let me see what else. I think that's it. I think that's all. It's going to be a permanent end here. If you unite the anchor to the coffin, that's a permanent ending. And it's also talking about just being weighed down with a huge amount of grief. It's heavy. It's really, really heavy. And this is what they're thinking and saying. The birds talk communication, but it's also associated to the thoughts. So they're not only speaking it behind closed doors, they're also thinking it, and they recognize what's coming up right here. And there's a divide in the party, and there's going to be an important decision on partnerships, on associations. You know, are you going to stand on this side and be found guilty and be punished for your association to this and praising it, you know, or are you going to stand on principle and remove yourself from it, you know? But they are talking about the end. They are talking about the end here. I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to ask if they, oh goodness, we're already at 23 minutes. Sorry, you guys, this video might be long. I'm going to ask if they secretly support impeachment you know, because we had the coffin there with the crossroads. That's an ending and a separation, you know, not only losing in the elections, but like, even though I didn't see the scythe to talk about cutting something off, but it's like, it still separates because it goes this way. See what I'm saying? So I'm going to ask if they secretly support impeachment. Give me 1 second. Does the GOP secretly support impeachment? Does the GOP secretly support impeachment of Donald Trump? Does the GOP secretly support impeachment of Donald Trump? Does the GOP secretly support impeachment of Donald Trump? Does the GOP secretly support the impeachment of Donald Trump? In secret, absolutely. We have the Clover here, which is the card of luck, opportunity, and luck, opportunity, and risk. The Bear, which is a neutral card, but it can also be viewed as a positive card depending on which way. And the Coffin, the end. So this is what they're saying behind closed doors, what they're not speaking about, what they're covering up. Absolutely. There is it's really growing, not only in the divide of the party and the Republican Party, even though they appear to be unified on television, and, you know, the sycophants come out there, and behind closed doors, you guys, they are pooping their pants. Like, I hope they have stock on Depends, because they realize what this is. And yes, behind closed doors, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We're at 25 minutes. Okay, I'm going to ask real quickly, and I'm going to try to keep this brief. I'm going to ask, what will happen to Trump's base if he loses the 2020 election? What happens to Trump's base? What will they do if he loses the election? What will the Trump base do if the GOP and Trump lose the 2020 election? What will the Trump base do if the GOP loses the 2020 election? What will the Trump base do if the GOP loses the 2020 election? What will the Trump base do if he loses the 2020 election? I just pulled those three because, you know, I guess they wanted to come out. Oy. Okay, we got the Scythe, the Cross, the Stars, the Dog, and the Rider. Second row, we have the Storks, the Garden, the Lilies, the Key, and the Fox. Okay, that was the initial double line of 5. Let's see what wanted to come out up here. Okay, there's the election. There is the Anchor and the Child. Okay, so this first row, there's going to be a painful punishment. I mean, they are going to be hammered. There's a painful punishment and a hope. There's a hope here for the GOP, a very conservative party here, to bring him back, or bring in the person that they trust. On this bottom row here, there's going to be some suspicion, or also some fraud, okay? But there's going to be a revamp of the party here. And they're going to be very suspicious of it. They're not going to trust it at all. They only trust him. They do not trust the GOP. They see it as, I don't see the snake, so I can't say that they see the GOP betraying them, you know, but they're suspicious of this. And it looks like the party itself, the Conservative Party, a party of conservative people. Also, with the lilies talks about purity, okay? And I think we've went over this before in another video. Purity with a capital P, okay? If we can read between the lines there, they're going to be suspicious. Or perhaps because we asked about what happens to his base after the 2020 election. They may think that the GOP right here cheated or pulled some type of fraud. Perhaps there wasn't enough loyalty here. The loyalty was not there. And they may bring in the news, perhaps online, some sort of online channel that the GOP cut him off or is punishing them because of this right here. And this could be talking about their view on importance of racial purity, the purity of the country, the whiteness of the country, no immigration, punish the party. And they do not trust, because it ends on the fox, and the dog is right next to it, and the dog is talking about loyalty and trust, you know, your best friend, the person that you tell everything to. So they're going to become very suspicious of the party. Like I said, I'm not seeing the snake, so I can't tell if they're going to feel betrayed. There may be some online communities that grow out of this, especially here with the garden and the what do you call it? The stars. This is like social media, a community online. So like social media, we might see growing white supremacist group in the media that's going to have to be addressed because of a mistrust that this person was not reelected. They don't trust him, and they view the party as having cut him off or conned him in some way. I'm seeing, yeah, they're going to cut off the GOP here. They're going to start online groups of white nationalists here. That's going to be, God, that's disgusting. That's really gross. But there's something going on here with immigration, leaving and returning and visitors. They want that cut off. And they're perhaps going to blame the GOP. They want to punish. They want to punish the party here and here. They want to punish the GOP party some way, shape, or form. Online communities of white supremacy, false identities online, and an attack on immigrants still. They want to carry the flag of the white nationalists. So we may see, even though the garden lands far from the writer knights the lilies. So this could be saying they want to bring the message of white purity, white nationalism. They're going to be frowned on upon that, and the party may try to separate themselves from that, but they're going to be punished here. And because this lands here and not the other way around, if this was up here like this, it would mean that the party's trying to separate. But no, they're going to break off. That whole section, that fringe, which has become the base of the GOP, it looks like it's going to break off. And they're going to go on their own route, but looks like there's a growth of white nationalists carrying the flag of white nationalists, a bunch of online communities, a punishment to the party, a mistrust of the old guard, even though the GOP has been fairly silent on Trump's racist remarks. That was very important to them. This was all of this, the white nationalism, the anti-immigration policies, the punishment of the country, or the punishment of immigration, people in the camps, all over the media. It was of significant importance to these people. But there's some that remain loyal to the party, though, right here with the dog and the garden. So there's going to be a split and a break. And up here we're seeing, let me see if I can bring this down. I don't know if this is in focus. The three that came out on their own, I'm just going to read that separately as a line of three. We have the crossroads, the anchor, and the child. So the crossroads, again, is another card of separation. It's a choice. It's a permanent choice, and there's something new coming out of that choice. So it's going to split. The party is going to split between the hardcore right, white nationalist neo-Nazis who are going to look at the GOP as the enemy because they weren't white nationalist enough, even though, in my view, they're already carrying that flag proudly. And you don't even need to go back to Nixon. You can go to Barry Goldwater for that. So before Nixon, you know, but yeah, there's going to be a split and something new is going to come out of this. I don't see the tree, so I can't see if it's going to grow, but it's going to be a fringe. But they're breaking off, and they're going to go online. But they want to punish. They want to punish people. And that's all I can get out of this one. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off because we're at 35 minutes. And I'm going to go think of something else to read on. Please leave me any recommendations for videos down below. I'd be more than happy to do those for you guys. And I will see you on my next one. Thanks. Bye.